Come to our mini studio.
Thank you, Emmanuel Akele.
Yes. Now, Governor, I understand the consultation is still continuing, and from what we know so far, the negotiation is still continuing, and the mediation team actually shared a proposed agenda with 4 items so far. And here we are talking about relationship between the Tumaini and the revitalized peace agreement. The second one is the repetition mechanisms or structures and contradictions with the revitalized peace agreement. They also talked about the suggestion of responsibility sharing, and then time frame for concluding the Tumaini peace initiative. We are in the second week of the negotiation after the resumption. Why all this delay? And the mediation continues to consult you as a stakeholders to this initiative.
Thank you, Emmanuel Akele, and thank to those who are tuning to iRadio. Actually, the delay for the talk to start is made by the way the two parties are approaching resumption. First of all, the opposition expected the government to come back to respond to the outstanding protocol, that is the power sharing. And you know that in August, President visited Kenya, and he congratulated the government team, and they set the deadline for the signing of the agreement. That was supposed to be on the 16th of September. So the opposition won the talk to start where they stopped, because the government team left Nairobi to Juba for consultation on the responsibility sharing.
That's the previous team?
Yes. Mm-hmm. The current team, when they came back for resumption, they say they would like to present something about the protocol that were initial, because they have opinion about them. This seems to suggest that the government intend to either undo what was done or review what was done. And the opposition is against this. They are saying this cannot be done because we negotiated with the government, and they believe that the team that came is from the same government, and therefore there is no reason why we should go back. So the agenda came out as a consultation of what issues should be discussed. The government said we have our report from the review of the protocols, and we want to present this review to opposition, and opposition said we are not going to do this. So for us as stakeholders, we accepted to see what the government want to do. And when we accepted presentation, we discovered that there are 2 issues. One issue is how is the Tumaini task related to the task in RXS? Because the repetition was a result that there was going to be one agreement in the country, and therefore no 2 agreements can be allowed. So the former government delegation with the opposition agreed that the pending and ongoing activities of RXS should be brought forward, added to the new task of Tumaini, and then we form one agreement, which is the Tumaini consensus. So that was where they departed. Now, the new team has opinion on what has been agreed, and that has been a problem. So the 4 agendas, 2 are from the opposition, saying we resume from where we stopped, and we make a schedule on when are we going to conclude the process. The government is saying, no, we need to establish the relation between the Tumaini and the RXS. Because there has been several statements from senior government officials that the one the Tumaini to align with our access. Sometimes they say they want the Tumaini to complement the our access. And sometimes they say we need to annex. So this way we need to know exactly whether it is an annex, it is complementary, it is to strengthen. This is the relation we are talking about. The other issue are institutions. There were institutions suggested to strengthen the implementation mechanism. All these institutions are not liked by the current government delegation, and they want them to be actually dropped, all of them.
Talk to us about the institutions.
The institutions are National Leadership Council, and there is also National Implementation Oversight Commission, and then there is the Governance Oversight Commission, and then there is Security Sector Oversight Commission, and then the Joint Defense Board has been amended to be Joint Security and Defense Board, because there is a need to include all the security officers, prison ward, prison director, the inspector general, the security director. All these need to be in that body as a security sector, so that they take responsibility of the security arrangements. So these are the 5 institutions. The government is not willing to go forward with them. They think that these institutions are replacing already established mechanisms in our access.
It seems like this is a sticking point, and for days now, the parties are yet to agree on this. What's the way forward here from your side as stakeholders?
From our side, I think what exists is not rational, it's political. And since it is political, it need political decision. And this can only be done by the person who initiated this process, President Salva Kiir, and the person who accepted the process, President Ruto, to agree how this process can continue. Because for the last 10 days, we have been saying the same thing. We agree on the agenda, but we disagree on which one should be tackled first. So this can be only solved by the 2 bodies.
Do you think there are some similarities? As a result, the government is coming up with a new opinion or proposals after the initial protocols?
Actually, the idea of Tumaini, what was discussed from the beginning, was that the Tumaini should be an agreement that is implementable and that brings the sustainable peace in the country. That is a Tumaini. The our access is a revitalized agreement for resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan. So the one was resolving the conflict, the other one is to bring sustainable peace into the country, which conflict resolution framework has actually not been moving very well for the last 9 years. If we consider the 2015, which was revitalized, is a continuation. Until now, it's going now to be 10 years by next year. So, and it has not brought what was expected. Yes, there is a ceasefire which has been broken here and there, and this is the only advantage that the RXS has brought to people of South Sudan. Forming a government and having the parliament and all this is not enough for people of South Sudan to say that this is a success. Because government is a mechanism to serve people. Because there were only two objectives of the current government. The first objective is to implement the agreement. The second objective is to deliver the government normal duties in the Republic of South Sudan. Both two are not being done now. Their agreement has not been implemented. And as you know that the government is unable to fulfill its duties. Because if you are not paying the civil servant, it is a contract. You work for people of South Sudan and I will pay you at the end of the month. If that has not happened, then that contract, even if people are seeing it like holding, there is no faith in it. Because one party is not honoring its work. And therefore the government has failed too. Failed implementation and failed duties of the government toward the people of South Sudan.
Now here we bring in Tumaini. How soon will Tumaini, if it is signed for instance, how soon will it change the affairs of the people of South Sudan? Especially you talked about the issue of the economy and the payment of salary. Like in general, what difference will Tumaini really make compared to the revitalized peace agreement as we speak? What's special about Tumaini?
The Tumaini is special because it was initiated by the president. Because all the other agreements or processes were initiated by a region or the international community. This one was initiated by the president himself, which bring on board three important aspects. One is the leadership. This Tumaini, if president continue to commit himself to this, it will have leadership, which has been affected in the few months by withdrawal of IO and all this. But president is supposed to continue to lead this process. The second is the political will, because if the president is leading this process, that will bring on board the political will of the leader. The third is the commitment. If president is still committed to this process, then there will be political commitment in the country. This makes it different. The only thing that will remain are resources, which the current process is trying to mobilize. We want to bring in resources if there is political will and there is leadership, and then you have commitment. Then what remain are resources to do what you are committed to. So this will make it different from the other one. But if the leadership, the first three are shaking, then we don't expect it to be different from our access.
Now, with this is sticking almost like a stalemate here on how to move forward, how best can Tumaini really succeed? Because people back home are really waiting for this gift for Christmas for them and for the signing of the Tumaini Initiative. And you remember during the resumption, all the speeches were gearing towards the advice to the parties to recommit themselves in this process to finish it in December before we can go for Christmas.
Yeah, I think what needs to happen is that the government has obligation toward the people of South Sudan and should be the one to initiate the solution of this stalemate. To me, I think what should happen is that let us stop the discussion on the power or the responsibility sharing in mechanisms. But since it was agreed that the current government cannot be expanded, the current assembly cannot be expanded, then let them discuss the responsibility sharing within the current institution of the government. If that is thing, and then they say about mechanism, let us first agree on what mechanism are we going to use, and then we will move there. If government separate the two, the thing that should be looked at, and the thing that are going to be discussed, then it will help proceeding from where we stop, and then revisiting what we have done because of some concern that are happening. I think that will be the way for us to move forward. But if we say, no, let us start with this, I think that is going to be difficult. And I would advise the government to do that, to accept that there should be separation of two, the mechanisms and the government as a body, presidency, council of ministers, and the parliament, and the council of state.
Don't you think it's a genuine concern from the government when looking at the mechanisms? For instance, looking at NLC, who is going to chair NLC, and what would be its mandate on responsibility? What about the executive, and what would be the duties of NLC, for instance, in the protocols initialed?
The duties of NLC is a leadership body for implementation, not for the government, for implementation of the agreement. Because there has been a lot of issues around the implementation. The presidency is not representative of all the leaders that are parties to this. And that led to the establishment of something called expanded presidency. It doesn't exist in the RXS, but it was created as a matter of necessity. It's an ad hoc body. This ad hoc body, since it is necessary, it needs to be qualified not to be presidency, because presidency has got its own powers and its own duties. But it has to be made to be a leadership thing. And this is not new. In 2010, we have all political parties conference in South Sudan, and one of the institutions that was suggested is the leadership forum for all the political party leaders to discuss national issues without exclusion. This is important because our country is at a very critical stage, and therefore we need an institution that will be held responsible should country fall into problems. So that is one aspect of it. The work to be done is that all the work that is being done by all mechanisms will be reported to National Implementation Oversight Commission. And this is like a secretariat of the National Leadership Council, which will include donors and will include other parties that are not in the presidency. This one will now be the body to oversee how things are being managed, because we had two institutions that are not in the RXS, that is the Free Transitional National something, and then which was turned to be National Technical Committee, which was also again changed to be High Level Standing Committee for Implementation. All this process necessitates a body that will prepare things for the National Leadership Council. So that is the NIOC. So these things are necessitated by their importance because they have been recognized by the government and they are recognized by the opposition. This is simply this institution. There is nothing wrong about this.
And who is going to be how many parties are going to be part of these mechanisms?
All the parties that are part to Tumaini. Like, for example, in the National Leadership Council, it is suggested that the whole presidency plus additional person from the Artigono will be members, 7 of them. And then the current groups under the opposition, 4 of them will be there. The stakeholders are suggesting that this time around we need to be part and parcel of decision-making process of implementation, because we have left our access to the government, but it didn't move forward, and we didn't know the reason why it was not. Though this time we want to be part. Those that are suggesting at least 3 people should be there. The same thing in the National Implementation Oversight. There will be government, opposition, donors, and friends of South Sudan. They will be part of this, so that whatever resources that are brought, they are managed by all these parties, so that they are channeled to the implementation of the agreement and nothing else.
So you're saying the stakeholders are not interested in power, but they just want to be part of the implementation mechanism.
Yes.
What are the interests of PCCA in this process?
The interest of PCCA is that things need to change, because government is saying an agenda is regime change. No, we don't want. We want regime to change. If the regime doesn't accept to change, then what is the other option? Because we are saying the way things are being managed is not good for us. So let the regime change its way of doing things. So regime is asked to change by itself. Failing to implement agreement is not a good thing. So the regime need to change to implement. Failing to deliver services to the people of South Sudan is not a good thing. So regime need to change to deliver services. If the regime cannot do these two things, what else is an alternative?
And do you think the slow pace of peace implementation back in South Sudan is intentional?
Yes.
How is that?
It is intentional. It is intentional in a way that the presidency is not meeting regularly. If they were meeting regularly, all these obstacles that were happening, they were supposed to be addressed. There was no enough resources for the mechanisms to do the job. Meanwhile, we know there are some resources that come in. Where does these resources go? What is the priority besides peace? We need to prioritize things. You cannot do development without peace. You cannot deliver services without peace. Because the whole of Upper Nile, for the last 10 years, nothing has been happening because of war. Now we need to implement the agreement, because this is the most important. It's only 2 years. We can do roads after, we can do whatever we want to do after, but the priority is the peace. So whatever resources we get should go towards peace. So if we are not prioritizing peace, then we think there is a problem.
Right. Now, how is Tumaini going to address the issue of permanent constitution in South Sudan and also elections?
Yeah, the Tumaini are saying that we need to speed up this process. And again, the one most important thing is a security arrangement. Because if you want to do consultations, public consultations, and there are insecure areas, how will the committee move to these places? There are talks that the election should not be tied to permanent constitution, because people are intentionally not giving enough resources to the Constitutional Review Commission just to delay it, because it is tied to agreement. It is tied to election. This is another way of delaying it. So we are saying this should be speed up. And speeding it up will be one option. The other option is, let us amend the current election laws, because there is something called 15% being appointed by a president. Why should the president appoint anybody if it is democracy? The issues of minority and the rest can be addressed through the party list, through the women list. They cannot be addressed by somebody appointing someone. What will be the criteria of selecting these people? I don't see any reason. So such kind of thing need to be amended so that we have a strong electoral law, and then we reform the judiciary, because that is where you address the dispute, and you have a government. Because in 2010 also, we agree that we are going to elect constituency assembly. That constituency assembly will be the one now to undertake the permanent constitution, because the current assembly is representing parties. It's not representing anybody in South Sudan. Because those who are elected are diluted, because those appointed are more than those who are elected, whether their time has gone or something, but they are now overwhelmed. You know, 60% of those in the National Assembly are appointees. 50% of those in the Council of State are appointees. So the representation of people is diluted. And that is why PCCA and stakeholders suggest that let us remove all these appointees and we leave those who are elected 2010 to be representative of people, so that the power is shared between the parties to agreement and the people of South Sudan. Because the assembly will be the power of the people.
Right.
Let me start with the rescue plan. I think the issue of rescue was taken from the speech of the president when the launching was being done, that he need to be helped to rescue the country from the problem they are in. So the issue of rescue plan came as a statement of the president. The agreement will be a rescue plan when it is implemented and stop all the problems we have. But it cannot start as a rescue plan. It has to deliver what is needed to rescue the country from the crisis we are in. Second is about that the RXS has brought total peace. Is it true? It is not. Otherwise, why those opposition are still out? Because total peace is creating harmonious environment in the country. But if that does not happen, that is one issue. The other issue is transferring power from the parties to agreement to the people for them to be able to elect their own people. That will be the total peace. But if those things are not done, then there is no total peace. That is why we are looking for a new one to be able to bring total peace. Tombe is asking about the difference between the National Leadership Council and the Assembly or the National the Council of State.
You even mentioned the presidency.
Yeah, and the presidency. First of all, the National Leadership Council is an implementation mechanism. It is not an executive. It is not a legislative body. It is implementation mechanism, and therefore is totally different from those institutions. One is a legislative, and the other one is an executive body, the presidency. So they have no relation. It is an implementation mechanism. Then we come to the changes in Juba. I think the best person to be asked is the President Salva Kiir Mayardit, because I'm not running the government, and I have not made assessment to see whether some people are effective or not. So the best person is our president, but the president has right that if the team that is working with him is not listening to him and doing what he expected them to do, he has every right to change them. He doesn't have to ask the public and or give public reason to public that this is the reason why I'm taking these people away. So I think that is the prerogative of the president. The issue of solution of the parties and the disagreement
On the agenda.
on the agenda. You know, we have something that is usually prominent in the political environment. When people have political positions, it becomes difficult for you to move them from one to another. So the parties are finding it difficult to do that. Also, there were prior statements from this team, which the opposition think that they were against the Tumaini. So they have that mentality that these people are coming to spoil us. Therefore, we don't accept whatever is coming with them. They have to accept where we stop, because they said the process was about to finish. So that is one of the reasons.
Yes. John was asking, will Tumaini restore hope?
Yeah, the Tumaini will restore hope if people of South Sudan and the leadership of the country work together to bring peace. This question that the peace will be left to parties is not. If the peace is not going, the people need to come out and tell the parties, look here, what you are doing is not right, so you have to do something right. If you don't do, we don't want all of you. And that will put pressure on the parties to implement whatever that has been agreed. So it depends on the people of South Sudan. Then will Tumaini...
Shakush is asking that have they agreed on any agenda since last week? Why is it taking long?
They agreed on the...
وصل بعربي كمان.
Yeah.
الاتفاق يعني في موضوع.
ناس اتفقوا بأجندة. الأجندة بتاع التفاوض اتفقوا عليه 4 نقاط. النقطة الأولى هي العلاقة بين الاتفاقية المنشط والموافقة أو الهب what we call Tumaini. علاقة بينهم شنو؟ تاني هي المؤسسات الممكن ينفذوا الاتفاقية لما نمضوا ديل في بعدين المشاركة في سلطة، دي أجندة. ونمرة 4 إنه الاتفاق الأول السلام ده فترة ده هينتهي منتين عشان نمضي
فترة زمنية يعني.
دي أربع أجندات الناس اتفقوا عليه، لكن يبدأوا بشنو؟ ده الإشكالية هنا. يبدأ بالفترة الزمنية، ولا يبدأ بمشاركة في سلطة، ولا يمشي يشوف المؤسسات اللي بنفذوا الاتفاقية، أو العلاقة بين الاتفاقية المنشطة والتمايني. يبدأوا بشنو؟ ده المشكلة اللي احنا قاعدين فوقه في مداشرة يوم لحد هسه. في تاني وفد بتاع الحكومة جاي هنا عشان يجيب سلام. وسلام ده وين؟ ما سلام ما قاعد في نيروبي، سلام موجود في جوبا. إذا في تغييرات في جوبا، إنه يعني المؤسسات بتاع الحكومة بينفذوا برامج وبيلتزم بالدستور والقوانين، البلد بيكون مستقر. فالسلام ما قاعد في نيروبي، سلام في نيروبي ده لأنه الوضع داك الجوبا ما متاحة لأي زول بيقول كلام مخالف لكلام حكومة عشان يسمعوا. مثلا أنا 3 من السجن، لكن حكومة ما مبسوط معي، وما حاول عشان يجي نقعد معهم عشان أقول لهم أنا ليه ما مبسوط، وحكومة داير شنو. لا ما أنا جيت هنا عشان أجي نشارك في المفاوضات دي، وأنا كنت في جوبا لمدة 2 بعد ما أنا طلعت من السجن. فدي ما في حوار داخلي
بيناتنا يعني
بين ومرات لما نكون في حوار داخلي ما في زول بيحترمه. دي ناشونال دايلوج يعني الحوار الوطني، النتائج بتاعه ليه يوم الليله ما في زول بيهتم به، برغم انه ده وثيقه مهم جدا للمستقبل بتاع جنوب السودان. فحتى الحوارات الداخليه ده ما بيشتغل. اتفاقيه بتاع كيتغوان ما كان عملوه بين سوداني، ما في ميديشن فوقه، وعملوه داخل اجل برغم انه موضوع في خرطوم، لكن في الاخر ما في زول يحترمه.
نعم. عندنا حوالي 6 دقائق. في سؤال زول بيقول واتس نيكست، كان تومايني فشل، يعني تومايني يعني جود فوربيد لو تومايني ما نجح شنو اللي بيحصل بعديه؟ يعني
اللي بيحصل ده بيتوقف على شعب بتاع جنوب السودان، لانه ده اتفاقيه نمر 4 ولا نمر 5 هدول لاطراف عشانهم يجيب سلام في البلد. اذا الاطراف ما اتفقوا، موضوع ده متروك للشعب بتاع جنوب السودان، لأن الجنوب ده ملك للشعب بتاع جنوب السودان، ما ملك للقيادات. is not a property of leaders or parties to conflict. It belongs to people of South Sudan, and people of South Sudan need to find solution. Not the leaders all the time, because they have been given enough time for them to do something, because they created problem. They have to solve problem, and if they are not able to solve the problem they have created, then it is to the owners of the country to say no, you people are unable.
Right. And Gama is asking, Gama بيقول انتم مالكم بتنطوا من اتفاقية لاتفاقية. Why don't you first implement the revitalized peace agreement? Why are you jumping from agreement to agreement? Now we're talking about Tumaini.
I think you need to ask the government in Juba, because the 5 parties that مضوا agreement هم الجو قال هنا دايرين نتفاوض مع الناس القاعدين برا. فالناس في جوبا ده اسالهم قولهم ليه تنطوا من هنا ليه؟ لانه نحن القاعدين هنا ده ما عارفين ليه الاتفاقيات دي ما نفذوها. المشكله شنو؟ عشان كده هنا بنقول يا جماعه اذا ما قدرنا ننفذ الاتفاقيه اللي عندنا ده، لانه كان مجبور، لأن الحكومة بقول الاتفاقية ده مجبور، ورئيس الجمهورية قال الاتفاقية ده ما عملوه عشان ينفذوا، كان عملوه بس عشان يكون في مشكلة، لأنه ما في دولة في 5 نواب، فهو قال ده ما بننفذوا. نعم. عشان كده دايرين حاجة اللي بقدر ينفذوا.
نعم. دينك برضه بيسأل الموضوع بتاع الثقة، يعني قادة الشعب كثير منهم فقدوا الثقة في القادة، وموضوع كمان بتاع انه السياسيين بيشتغلوا لسيلف انترست، ما للانترست بتاعت جنوب السودانيين. هو بيضم الكلام ده للمبادرة بتاعت تومايني.
كلامه ده كلام صح. شعب وعدهم كتير بخدمات، وعدهم بسلام، وعدهم بتحسن في حياة، وعدهم ان يعملوا لهم مويه ومدرسه والمستشفى. الحاجات دي ما جا. ووعدهم بسلام انه ما في طلقات، والناس بقى يضربوا بعض ذاك الجبهه ذاته باسلحه ثقيله. فالشعب عنده حق يفقد الثقه، لكن الحل في شعب ما مع الليدرز، بيكوز انت بتدي زول شغل. يعني الناس اللي قاعدين في حكومه ده كلفهم نفسهم عشان يخدموا الشعب. لو ما خدموا الشعب ممكن يكلف ناس ثانيين عشان يحل مشاكلهم.
Right. We have about 2 minutes. I briefly want you to comment on the question of David Magog, but I think it's more of government to respond to this, asking about why the government team has been replaced or changed. But then he mentioned the issue of other holdout groups, Cirillo and Gadwich.
I think the issue of changing the delegation is a responsibility of government. Each party has a right to change whoever you think is not doing what it's supposed to do, and bring in whatever. So long as the agenda remains the same. Changing of the delegation should not be changing of the agenda. Regarding the two military leaders, there are others, by the way. There are those of Emmanuel Ajawin and many other people. Some are away by choice, because both of them were written letters to come, and by the chief mediator and the president of Kenya himself, to let them come. People went as far as to Rome to meet with Thomas and the other group that is with him, and they said, we are not going to Kenya. And they gave very serious condition, which I don't want to say here, that if that condition is not resolved, they are not ready to talk with anybody in Juba. So that is somebody who doesn't want to talk now.
Right.
We don't know what they have.
Right. Briefly, in 30 seconds, what's your last message before you can wind up, Kuel Aguer?
My last message is that the people of South Sudan, شعب بتاع جنوب السودان، لازم يعرف إن الجنوب ده ملك لهم، ما ملك للقيادات. ده ملك للشعب، وشعب عنده حق يقول كلمة بتاعه. إذا في حاجات ما ماشي كويس، مثلا أنا لو خادم في البيت وانا ما قاعد اعمل شغلي في البيت بتاعك بتقعد يعني تخليني في الكلام ده. شعب جنوب السودان عندهم مهمه للنجاح بتاع اي تنفيذ بتاع الاتفاقيه، وكلام بيجيب سلام في البلد. مسؤول به الشعب، ما مسؤول به القيادات في الدوله.
All right.